everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Station Break podcast. I'm your host, Cassidy Quinn. We are recording this out of Studio 30 in KGW News in Portland, Oregon. And every Friday, we talk to someone here at KGW to give you a little bit of a behind-the-scenes look of what actually happens at a TV news station. Today, we have someone who has to put up with me a lot. Mr. Mike Wadsworth.
This is true.
The producer of our Live at 7, our 7 o'clock kind of entertainment-y show.
Yeah, I would say when people ask me what Live at 7 is, I just say it's more of our arts and entertainment-driven news show because it still is about the news first.
Yes, and sometimes it ends up being like half breaking news. What?
You learn that breaking news happens. I'm like, Cassidy, you have to do this in a minute and a half or 2 minutes instead of...
Or we don't have time for you. I'm sorry, your story about a beer festival does not take priority over the giant fire burning in Oregon. I'm like, okay, I get it, I understand. How long have you been at KGW?
So I've been here almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in August, which will be a great month because we have the Olympics, and that'll be great.
Oh.
So yeah, I came here. I started on the morning show in Sunrise, and we like to take the camera around, get in the booth, bring it in the newsroom. We used to do that a lot. So maybe you've seen us there if you watch Sunrise, and then I came to Live at 7 last May.
Excellent. Yeah, you've been over a year on Live at 7. You've survived.
I will say, of anyone that's been on Station Break so far, I probably worked most closely with you than anyone else because we started on the morning together. Right? You might have seen Cassidy in the morning show.
Yeah.
Doing trending, right? You were doing trending segments.
Yeah.
So we started there, and then I came over to Live at 7, and that's when you and Drew made the switch too, right around that same time.
You're just following me around on all these shifts. Keep trying to escape. I'm like, can I get on the 10 o'clock show or something? Just kidding. Yes, it's dangerous to have you on the podcast because
this is true.
You know a lot.
We'll turn the tables.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's what Tom Tuttle did. So what is your role as the producer of Live at 7?
I would say I would consider myself the point guard if you're talking about compared to basketball, right? You're the point guard that has to be the go-between between your talent, the anchors, Cassidy, the director of the show, your editors, especially since we have a lot of entertainment segments where we're sending stuff in very late. We have to make sure those get in order. So I'm kind of the point guard that's making sure all the pieces are staying together. So we're booking the live interviews. We work together on planning the entertainment segments. I'm writing the show, and I guess sort of the glue that keeps it all on the tracks and together.
Yeah, some people ask me out in the field, who's writing all the stories that air in Live at 7? And that is pretty much you.
It's me. Yeah. We always say 7 o'clock is sort of its own island because we're involved in the news, and it's a news show first. If there's breaking news, we're always going to start with that, always. News is the priority, but I'm spending the majority of my time looking for interesting people to bring in, trying to keep a pulse on the music scene because we're starting to grow the mic check segment. We can talk about that in a little bit. And we have to be able to find the coolest events going on. And so that's the majority of the time. I'm probably spending maybe 2 hours a day writing the news. And that's even like, let's get you caught up real quick. It's almost like headlines. If you're really interested in learning more about the story, you're always going to go and find it on Facebook or anywhere else on our website. But we'll give you the real basics and get you caught up on the big local stories that happen, and maybe pop some national news in there. But it's mostly just local news and really quick.
And of course, you're here all day. The show is the end of your shift, which is the same for me.
Right.
But a lot of your work has to be done in that last little chunk of time because obviously the news, you can't write it when you come in at the beginning of the day and be like, we're going to write the news headlines for 7 o'clock. So does that get a little crunch time?
Yeah, I would say what makes this job unique is that the most intense part of your job is later in the day. So you sort of have to pace yourself out in terms of your energy, because if you waste it all early in the day and things are going crazy, well, you still have to be focused and keep it together. So it's all extreme time management in terms of, okay, I can get this done now, and a lot of times, say, the weird segment. I'll always look around for weird stories early on. The weirdest things I can find, Reddit is great for that. There's a number of cool, weird Reddit threads. I highly recommend checking out Not the Onion on Reddit. It's just a bunch of stories that look like Onion headlines, and they're definitely real life.
Wow.
So we go there a lot. So anyway, yeah, we can do stuff like that early in the day, but it's hyper time management, and yeah, you got to kind of save yourself for that latter part of the day, because for everyone at home, what they're concerned is the 30 minutes that they see, and that's it. So 7 o'clock is the most important time of the day.
Are there ever days that you can't find weird news or?
Oh, it's always out there. Always. There's times where we have to. Those are at the end of the show, the weird stories. So a lot of times they don't even make it in. We have to kill those for time reasons. So we can always bring those back. Sometimes I'll see like the same weird story in a number of different threads or different places throughout the week, and I'm like, okay, people are liking this one, so we'll throw this in there. People are strange, so there's always weird things to find.
And animals. Animals are strange too.
A lot of times, the entire weird segment is animals.
Mm-hmm.
That happens, and that's one of the more fun parts of the show to produce.
Yeah, last week I was very sad because I got to anchor the show. That's not why I was sad. I was very excited about that. But in the weird and the trending stories of the day was a Saved by the Bell restaurant in Chicago. I was obsessed with that. Still, if I disappear for a week and no one knows where I am, that is where I will be. But we had to cut that out. And so I had tweeted about that, and people keep asking me, like, is that a real thing? Why did you mention that? I'm like, we didn't have time in the show.
Right.
Because there was this thing called a train exploding. And that obviously took precedent.
Yeah, so we're talking about that day. That was Friday. So this takes you into how the craziness can happen. We get word that there's going to be a 6:30 press conference with the governor Friday night at the site of the Mosier train derailment. And so as soon as you hear, oh, they're planning for 6:30, it's not going to happen at 6:30. So it starts getting pushed back, and that's where we finally made the decision. Okay, when we do take it, we're going to carry it in its entirety, even if that means going into the top of 7 o'clock. So you have to plan for all of the scenarios. What if they come on and they're done already? Then your show is normal. If they come on at 6:55, which is exactly what happened, we played the whole thing. That came into the 7 o'clock hour. We ended up starting the show that night at 7:08 or 7:09. And that's, when you're talking about 22, 23 minutes of content, and then you have commercials. That's 9 minutes that you just lost. And so you have to figure out on the fly, okay, what am I going to get rid of? Do you get rid of a commercial break? How do you restructure this on the fly? And so what ended up happening that night is we had the big story, right? We just heard from the governor, so we went to Pat, Doris was on the ground there. And then we just went to a commercial after that. We got in Mackenzie. She was doing the live entertainment. I think she was with the Portland Opera. And then we did the bonsai. Bonsai.
We learned.
Which is what we learned, yeah. The bonsai exhibit that's at the Japanese garden. Thought this guy was fascinating in what he's doing, and so we brought him on. And it is amazing work that he's doing.
Yeah.
And
we had a tree in the studio.
We had a cool tree in there, and that was probably over 100 years old.
And then that was the end of the show.
That was the end.
Thank you. See you guys later.
So we had to make the sacrifice. We cut all the trending out. We cut all the weird out. We cut the weather out. And so sometimes those are the decisions you got to make on the fly.
What was going on behind the scenes? Because I only heard, I knew whenever you were quiet in my ear during the press conference, I was like, I'm not going to ask him anything because I know he's just trying to figure out and cut things. Right. So I'm sure it was chaotic in your brain or even in the control room. But to me, it seemed like very well put together. I think from people watching at home, it seemed to work well, and it was, okay, that was the show. We didn't miss anything.
Yeah, it's that's the goal. It's like when you have an audio person, you don't know they're there when they're doing their job.
Right.
You only know they're there when they're not doing their job, and it gets messed up. So a lot of times, yeah, that's our job. So we're fine not getting the exposure at that point.
Are you calm, or do you get stressed out and go crazy?
Oh, I get stressed out, but it's all inside. You have to be calm, cool, and collected on the surface, and try to put that aside and just say, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do, and just be ready for anything. So, and that's a skill. You just learn it by doing it. There's no other way to really prepare for that. You just have to be in it. And so.
Wow. Yeah. Now for your show, it is called Live at 7. So when something like that happens, you try to keep the live components intact if possible?
Right. So we made some changes to the show somewhat recently, over the past couple months. First time that we've done that in a while. And really simply, we're like, well, it's live at 7, and we start with reporter packages that aren't live.
That were shot 4 hours ago.
That doesn't really make much sense. So if you've watched the show for a while, you used to be much lower in the show. Now we put Cassidy up higher. Well, let's get to the fun stuff. So we'll give you your news, and then we'll get to the live portions. But yeah, that's the focus. I mean, sometimes we'll have 2 live shots now. We'll have Mackenzie Roth from 98.7 The Bull comes over here twice a week maybe, and we'll do entertainment or music segments, and we'll have an in-studio interview. That happened last night. So those are all fun live elements, and I try to work those in. I mean, as much as we can. So yeah, and especially breaking news, as we said, that's the priority. So we always go for that first.
When you're picking things or people to have in the studio for a live interview, are there things you look for or certain ways you try to go? Because sometimes they're more serious topics, sometimes they're a cat rapper.
Exactly.
They can be all over the place.
So you look for interesting people. First of all, obviously the cat rapper was...
Shout out to Mosho.
Yeah, Mosho, the cat rapper. And I have to give credit to Nina Melhoff where credit is due. She has this great ability of finding these awesome, interesting people on Instagram that are in Portland.
Oh.
And so she found him and sent him to me. And then we had Mosho come in. So if you're unfamiliar with Mosho, he's a Portland rapper who has 3 Sphinx cats. I'm just spitting in the process.
I don't think you can say Sphinx without
3
spitting.
Sphinx cats that they have their own clothing deals. So they wear outfits. And they climb on him while he's doing his raps. So he has good following on Instagram, and we brought him in the show, and on the show, that was a fun one because Joe Donlin did the show that night, and apparently the cat that was the most shy is the one that ended up crawling on Joe's shoulder and sat there facing outward with its tail and butt just sitting there like flapping during the interview, and that was incredible. So we look for, obviously that's an interesting character, that's a home run.
Yeah, if you have a cat that will stick its butt at the camera, give us a call.
Just sit on the shoulder of the anchor. Yeah, when it comes to more serious topics, I mean, 4 to 5 minutes is an unheard of amount of time for one topic in television. The longest you'll see on a package story is maybe a minute and a half, minute 15, 2 minutes, maybe. So this allows us to expand more on a topic and just have a conversation. We try to just keep it conversational. So you obviously want there to be enough there to talk about. If it's sometimes if it's just an event, like we can cover that in a soundbite. Whereas tomorrow, what we can talk about what's coming up tomorrow night because we have a show tonight. We have this guy coming who put together a food cart movie, and he traveled trying around the world, and obviously we have all the food carts here. Just learning more about the culture of the food cart, and so it should be an interesting segment. They're doing a screening on Saturday, but we'll get a nice little look tomorrow. So really, if it piques my interest, I'll call and talk to them and see if I have a good feel for them on TV, and then we'll give it a shot. So.
Do things ever just not work? Like it comes in the studio and then you're sitting there in the control room. Obviously, you don't have to give examples. We don't want to make anyone feel bad. But are you sitting there going, oh, should we wrap this up early? We really have to do a 5-minute segment and there's nothing. What are we going to talk about?
Yes, that does happen. Sometimes I'll just tell Chris Willis in his ear, hey, let's wrap this up. Sometimes that has to happen. Not often, though.
Hope he doesn't have his volume up too high so the interviewee is like, what? I just heard that.
Right. So if you're unfamiliar, during the show, what I'm doing, I'm in the control room, and we take the booth cam every once in a while so you can see us from there. We give a wave. So it's me, Carrie is our director, and then we have someone on prompter, which is up behind us in the studio.
Oh, we haven't had a director on the podcast yet.
That would be cool.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry, I digress.
So during the show, I'm just making sure we stay on time because we have to be in at a certain time and out at a certain time. So our computer system will tell us you have time allotted for each story. and then basically you just hit the space bar and it'll go to each story, and it'll tell you how much over you are or under, meaning you have more that time to fill. And timing is a little different on this show because a lot of the interviews are open-ended. Your segments can go longer than 3 minutes, or they can go shorter.
If I just don't stop talking.
What do I do if her live signal dies and goes out?
Oh.
That's 3 minutes of a show that we lost. So timing is my number one priority when I'm in the booth, and that's again something you have to do on the fly. So, but yeah, there's. I guess the original question was: is there segments where they don't go so well? Yes. If you are a frequent watcher of the show, you've probably seen a few that perhaps we don't have to point out directly, but.
We hated this one, and we hated this one.
Oh, it's not so much hating.
No, I know.
As there's things that make good television and things that make bad television, and so I think also sometimes.
Right. That's the hard part of our jobs.
That is.
Totally different note. How did you get into TV news?
That's a good question. So I always was into sports. Always was into sports. So in high school, I did sports broadcasting. I did the football games on radio, and stuff like that. And then I went to school.
You were like the voice on the radio?
I was the voice, yeah.
Oh.
And I still have a little DVD at home that I like to pop in every once in a while and listen. It was one of my best friends growing up, and I did the play-by-play, and he did the color commentary. And
was it on camera or just audio?
Just audio, yeah. And so our highlight. So I'm from New Jersey. I grew up in Flemington, New Jersey, which is central New Jersey towards the Pennsylvania border. And Rutgers, the big state university, and so we got to go there for a state championship and broadcast a game there, and that was cool. So anyway, I went to college to do broadcasting and to do sports, and I ran a sports show at the University of South Carolina. That was television. It was a 30-minute weekly show, and I got to go to all the football games around the SEC, and that was awesome. Amazing experiences.
And were you reporting on camera?
Yes, I was on camera.
We need to find. Is that on YouTube?
Yes, we can certainly find.
Yes.
We can certainly find these. Yeah. And so I did that all for 4 years of college, and I was like, you know what? I'm ready to. Let's do news. Let's do it. Let's take a jump from sports and do news, and so it's led me here to this show. No.
Did you ever have any random jobs before news or sports related?
Well, my first job, actually, I worked at a sports apparel store. So I was selling shoes, and that was my first little job. So that was in the sports world.
Did you make commission or hourly?
Just hourly.
I don't know why that is a question, but just curious.
Yeah, that was the first gig. Nothing. I always wanted to be around broadcasting, so I just did it from a young age.
Have you ever been fired from a job? We ask everybody on the podcast.
No, I've never been fired.
Oh.
I think about what that would be like, and it feels pretty demoralizing. But I guess you just have to bounce back.
Yeah.
Timing a lot of in television. A lot of times, you could get fired and you'll be a news director somewhere else. So.
Right. In the entertainment business, a lot of times, might not even be necessarily firing. It's like, well, that job is gone now.
Exactly. So yeah, but no, never been fired.
Wow. Well, we'll see what we can do about that. Just kidding.
You could play a role in that, possibly.
Speaking of that, kind of, not getting fired, but has anything ever gone horribly wrong on Live at 7? Like, I mean, I guess there's my live shots have cut out before, or there's times where people say things they shouldn't say on television.
Yeah.
But I don't know, any good stories that you have?
Well, on that note, on the people slipping their language, we were at a particular beer event, which we won't even have to say. We don't have to get specific here because we cover a lot of beer events. Mm-hmm. And it happened to be at the end of this party. So as you can imagine, maybe a few beers had gone down already. And we had a little slip up there. Those are interesting situations for us to handle, right? Mm-hmm. If you have the option, what you do, you just move on to somebody else.
Which is what happened in that scenario.
Yeah, but there's other times where you can't.
There's nobody else.
Yeah, there's no one. there's nobody else to go to, so you have to wrap it up early. You know what? I haven't had anything catastrophic happen in terms of it could happen though, because you're talking about a 3-minute live shot from you, a 4 or 5 minute live shot from say Mackenzie doing a music segment, and what do you do if both of those go away and the technology doesn't work and your signal's gone? That's a very good question. I'm not exactly sure what would happen.
Well, and a few weeks ago, that did happen. Like 10 seconds into my live shot, something happened. We still don't really know what happened. Somehow the camera just like turned itself off or something, and my live shot was. We had no idea.
That was the
for the
funny
record. We did the whole live shot.
This was at the Vintage Resort, which is the Airstream trailer.
Luxury trailer park.
Right,
it's awesome.
In Willamette Valley. So you can go to the wine country and stay in these cool little trailers and a cool segment. Yeah, we're 15 minutes into it, or 15 seconds rather. And Cassidy goes to move, her first time walking somewhere in the shot, and she just freezes. The whole shot freezes. And
maybe that's just what I was doing. I just really wanted to play a prank on you.
Stuck in the air. At that point, we decided, we're like, okay, we got to move on and figure out what's going on. But Cassidy didn't know that happened because she couldn't hear me anymore in her ear. So she went on and did the entire segment as if they were live on television. And your moment was probably tossing back to Chris, and you got nothing on the other side.
Well,
I'm not exactly sure when you guys realized that it didn't work. But
well, because normally you're in my ear telling me like you have 2 minutes left, you have 1 minute left.
Right.
Okay, wrap. And I wasn't hearing that, but there has been one other time, or there's sometimes where the earpiece just doesn't work very well. You can't hear, or it comes unplugged because I'm moving around and I'm sitting in a chair and I accidentally unplug it myself. So I was thinking, I kind of have a sensor, I think, in my head of like what's 3 minutes-ish. So I just decided, well, I think it's been longer than 3 minutes. I'll just toss back to Chris, and then silence. And the photog, John Helm, that day, his phone had rang in the middle of the segment, but of course he didn't answer it. Why would you answer your phone if you think you're on live television? But that was you guys calling to tell us you are not on the air anymore.
So yeah, if you saw the show that night, we did get Cassidy back. It was maybe 10 minutes later, towards the end of the show. And
we did it again, asked the same questions.
Did the same exact thing, segment again. So this little tangent started, did anything go catastrophically wrong? No horror stories just yet. And
yeah, knock on the wooden door over here.
Yeah, we have a good team back here that they always make sure that the shots and the signals look good beforehand. And so it's always a team process for everything we do, because you have to have folks in master control. They're the ones that tune in the signal, and then you have someone who's on, we call it feed point, where you might be able to see behind here up there on the main desk. It's right where all those to the right of that little pillar. They make sure they get to see all of the little screens of all the shots, and so before the shows start, that's where they go and say, hey, let's test to make sure that your lips aren't flapping and your voice is 5 seconds behind or it's freezing. And so they make sure all the shot is ready, and then it's ready for air. So yeah, it takes a lot of people to get it done, and we're pretty efficient, I would say, in getting things on air very quickly. So yeah, a good team that makes sure that doesn't happen.
Side note, this happened the last time we recorded the podcast. One of the lights went off. If you're listening to this, it has no effect on you. If you're watching the video version of the podcast, one of the lights went out, but last time it came back on a few minutes later, so we'll just wait and see. Stay tuned. You have to listen to the whole thing to find out if the light comes back on. What are some of your favorite segments you've had on Live at 7, whether they're in the studio or out in the field or...
I've really liked some of the music segments we've done so far. We started the mic check segment because I love music. I play guitar. I'm always playing at home, and I just love music. And I thought, in terms of television, no one's really covering music in Portland in terms of there's so many big artists that come through that play like the Modus Center or the Schnitz, and then there's just so many great venues from the Crystal Ballroom to the Roseland to the Aladdin Theater, all these places. And then there's the local bands too. That are also playing those venues. But we've been able to get a few a big country artists. We had Kip Moore on the show. That was really cool. I'm a fan of his. We had Brett Dennen last week, folk artist from Northern California. That's cool. So that's really neat that we've been able to get access to some of these artists, and we hope to grow it in the future. We're trying to get more local bands coverage, so that's a process in its own. Just trying to listen around and see who's out there. We just did the Battle of the Bands or Battle for Warped Tour last night, and that's like a 4-round competition. The winner gets to play at the Warped Tour show, which comes to Portland later this summer.
Oh.
So that's really cool. Revolution Hall, we've been there a number of times. Just going to these cool venues is fun. Taking people to the places that maybe they've been there, or they're like, oh, this looks like a cool place. Maybe I'll just head to their website and see what they're doing. So the music segments have been some of my favorites, and that's just me being partial to it.
What are your favorite types of music?
So I would say I'm more of an old soul when it comes to music. I grew up listening to Eric Clapton, and he's the one who made me want to pick up a guitar, and Stevie Ray Vaughan, and all of the the classic 60s and 70s blues and rock artists. Artists playing today that I really like, I'm a huge John Mayer fan, which is a surprise to some people. I've been to at least a dozen of his concerts.
Wow.
At least since probably 2006 or 7.
So multiple concerts a year then? Well, I guess if it's been 10 years.
Yeah.
Surprise, it's 2016, Cassidy.
Yeah, so I like Mayer's doing some great stuff, and he's touring with the Grateful Dead now, and Dead and Company, they're coming through the Moda Center in July. It's a great show. And all the Deadheads already have their tickets. In case you were wondering, Matt Safino, definite Deadhead. Huge Deadhead.
He wore a Dead t-shirt when he was on the
There
podcast.
you go. So maybe that's not new information. But so they're playing the Moda Center, then they're going to playing the Gorge. So I'm going to go to a show in the Gorge. Of course, Safino is going to both shows already. Got his tickets already. I love Jack Johnson. Looking for some new music from him. And I got into country music because I lived in South Carolina for 6 years. So went to school there, and then I worked in Charleston at the beach before I came here. And so I got into country music.
What was living in the South like?
So growing up in New Jersey, I wanted to just go somewhere that I didn't know. And I went to the South, and I saw palm trees on campus, and I was like, all right, let's do this. So I went down there, and I really enjoyed it in the South. It's a very diverse place. It is. The humidity down there it's hot. This time of year is really hot. Talk about getting stuck in the air. You get stuck walking outside.
It's just a sauna everywhere.
Yes, so it's Charleston was awesome. Awesome place to live. Very difficult to leave. You go to the beach. I'd go to the beach before I went to work. I did an 11 p.m. show then, so I'd go to the beach in the morning and for a couple hours, and then go to work and then do it all over again. So
that sounds so nice. If you want to go to the beach before work here, you'd have to get up, even on our shift that starts later,
Right.
You'd still have to get up very early to make it all the way to the coast. I guess you could go down by the waterfront. That's not really beach, but...
Oh, there's Broughton Beach as well.
Okay.
Northeastport, you can do that. So that's as close as you can get. I go to the coast often, though. The Oregon coast is incredible. I just did the Cape Falcon hike. Just incredible. Cape Lookout is probably my favorite that I've done so far. But I try and get up and down the coast and do hikes as much as I can. So.
Were you an outdoorsy person before moving to Oregon?
I was, yeah. And this has just made me even more so, just because there's just endless places you can go, even just in Portland. Or I still consider going in the Gorge. It's, you're not going that far.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still Portland area.
Oh,
So.
unrelated question, or comment more like, you recently, so you do these Just Ask segments sometimes on Fridays at Live at 7, and recently you've been putting the podcast as a little Just Ask, because people are asking questions on the podcast.
Right.
Are you going to put yourself on the podcast? They air on Fridays, so when this podcast comes out, it'll be perfect timing.
Yeah, that is, it'll be weird. I just think I mean, think of it this way, okay? It's like writing and teasing. It's writing about yourself, and then we're going to tease it in the show, which the purpose of the tease is to give the people something that they might be interested in seeing and get them to come back after a commercial. And so I got to write, something interesting about myself that may want people to come back. It's just kind of a...
It's a good life skill. It's like writing a cover letter.
I guess. I mean, would you write it for me?
I'll write it for you.
All right, so there you go. Done.
If you trust me.
No,
you'll have the final say on it.
Yeah, why not? We can put it in the show. Yeah, so the reason we did Just Ask and the reason we're putting this in there is because we used to do the show question. We want to get all of you guys involved. I just felt like the show question was sort of getting outdated. It may come back. I just feel like there's a different way we can try and get people, involved, and so I started the Just Ask just to do like, hey, we're gonna pick a topic, an interesting person, or just play off some kind of news, and then just give you the entire week to send in questions, however you want to do it. Facebook, Twitter. You can email us if you ever want to say something to us on Live at 7. You can email pdxtonight@kgw.com.
Oh.
And you'll reach us. So if you have any ideas for things, you can send it our way. And yeah, so we just want to try and do something different to get people interacting, and so I think the podcast is great.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the promo,
Yeah.
And especially if you'll put yourself on there. I think that'll be great. I mean, that's what it feels like to be the on-air person all the time. You have to write things about yourself, and it's like, this is awkward. Writing in the third person, like, Cassidy Quinn is at blah, blah, blah. Making a fool of herself today. So what is your typical day like when you get here? Do you immediately start working on the show of that day, or are you more planning ahead, or is it kind of, or sometimes you go out on shoots if you're doing those Just Ask things?
Right. So the Just Ask, I'll go out on like Fridays. We try and give people the whole week to send questions, and then I'll head out like Friday morning. But the typical day, I mean, it's a great shift. I come in here 11:30, and then out here usually by closer to 8 after the show, because we're gonna button things up on the other side. But yeah, most of the day is for the show that night. Maybe I can find 30 minutes to an hour to start planning ahead. So, and this show, you really have to have that time to plan ahead. So every once in a while, I'll get a day where someone else can do the show, and I'll look ahead, because especially as we're doing these music segments, you got to go through a lot of people to get to the artists, the important people with the artists. So it takes time to find all of those, and then you have to make the right contacts and see what days are going to work. Because if we tried to plan all these interviews and all that the day of every single time, it's the quality, I think, would suffer. So yeah, most of the time is spent on the show for that day and that night, and I try to find time to plan ahead. So today we don't have a show, so I'll be planning everything for next week, at least the in-studio interviews, and try and get, we always try to get as many options for each day for Cassidy segments, and then we'll just kind of like touch base beginning of the week and in tandem figure out what we're going to do for PDX tonight. So yeah, majority of my day is for the show that night. Spend about like 2-3 hours on your segment and the in-studio interview, because you got to pull. I'm the one that's got to find all the video sources and tell the editors where to find stuff, and then put all the cues for the director to take video, or we need this to go full screen, or we need this to go in a little off box and have Cassidy in her little tea box in the corner, and so there's all these options of what we can do. So I'm the one making those decisions.
Yeah, it's hard enough for me to plan a couple segments for myself, but then thinking about scheduling things farther out for other people, oh gosh.
Yeah, there's a lot. So time management is a big part of the job. Yeah.
And now we should mention, so today, we're recording this on a Thursday. On Friday, when this comes out, we will have a show. But it does happen every so often, probably at least once every couple months or so, you don't have a show at 7 o'clock because of something else that's airing on NBC, right?
Right. So typically it's during basketball season, because we play a lot of the Blazer games.
Oh, lights back on.
Lights back. So we air a lot of the Blazer games, so that means 7's usually blown out.
Today it's Stanley Cup.
Right, so we have the Stanley Cup Finals are playing. This is another example. Like last week, we didn't know. It was like if one team wins this game, then NBC is going to have it, and then if this team wins, then NBC Sports is going to air this day, and it's like there's a lot of unknowns. Like, are you going to have a show? Or are you going to not? You may not find out till the day before or a few days before.
Very confusing.
So yeah, but those days are invaluable. I mean, just to plan ahead and excuse me, have the time to just find interesting things and see what's going on.
Yeah. Sometimes there's a presidential debate. I wonder if that'll happen more now that we're really getting into the thick of it.
We are. It's going to be a wild couple months here because we got the Olympics, and then once the Olympics are done, it's going to be all, we're going to be going right into the elections.
Yep.
It's going to be wild.
Okay, now we're going to go to questions from the Twitter and Facebook sphere. By the way, we are now live streaming these podcasts when we record them on Facebook. So if you follow me on Twitter at Cassidy Quinn, I always tweet out when we're going to go live, and you can ask questions while we're on the podcast. First question comes from W. Clayton. Do you ever run out for a snack?
Do I ever run out for a snack? Yes. I will say most of the time I do not take a break during the day, so I'll just come in and it's right to it. I know. I mean, if I do, yes, I do run for snacks. We are in Goose Hollow right now, so if you know where our station is, it's at 15th and Jefferson. And so I'll go down to the Hoff House, which is a little coffee shop that's tucked away by the Goose Hollow Inn. It's right next to that. And I think that's 19th. I think that's where it is. Anyway, I'll go there, get coffee, and get a little snack. So yeah, snack break necessary.
What is
That's like maybe a 10-minute jaunt, and that's it.
Do you hate, like, all of us on the live shots, or even in the studio down at the square, if we have, like, a food segment, and you're in the control room, and you're just looking at these live shots of me eating something,
yeah,
or
so I say
there's beer everywhere?
Most of the segments that we do are food, drinks. I mean, that's a huge part of what Portland's all about and what we're good at. So
exactly, that's what people want.
And be there, yeah. 'Cause, I mean, to me, seeing it is good enough. I can go there later. That's fine. Sometimes I'm lucky enough where I'll still be here when you get back, and sometimes we'll get,
Yeah, can't really bring pints of beer to you,
left.
but
no, we can't.
Sometimes we had a pizza a couple weeks ago.
Yep. I don't get too jealous of the food out there.
That's good.
'Cause I can just go get it.
That's why I can't be a producer. I'd be like, no. Even sometimes we don't get to eat the food when we're out there. It's just like to look pretty on camera. Still, get jealous. Jeff Jurchin wants to know, have you ever sang karaoke? And if so, what have you sung?
I have done karaoke. I have not done karaoke in Portland. We did do a...
How can be?
I know, how can be. We did do a segment at Chopstick, popular karaoke spot that recently moved. I can't even tell. How long ago was that now?
Well, Reggie was still here.
Reggie was still
so
here,
it was probably a year ago.
It was getting close to a year ago. So anyway, have not done karaoke in Portland. I've definitely done karaoke. Probably the most memorable moment was in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, at a Senor Frogs. We did karaoke, and
Classy establishment.
it was a classy establishment, and if I remember, it was some kind of NSYNC song, I believe.
Yes.
Probably right up your alley.
Of course.
So yes, karaoke definitely been done. I'm totally open to doing karaoke.
NSYNC. That's a good choice.
Yeah.
Let's see. We're going to the Facebook questions.
Okay.
Tamara wants to know who is your favorite genre, band, or artist. We kind of got to that. Are there any artists that you just do not like at all these days that are like on the radio? Or, like, do you listen to Justin Bieber?
I like the beat. I like Bieber. Yeah, I enjoy Bieber. I like what he's doing. I mean, whether he actually wrote any of those songs, I don't know. But I mean, I like the song that Ed Sheeran did for him and that he plays with him, the "Love Yourself" song.
Mm-hmm.
That's it's interesting because I feel like the vibe of that song, it should be like, you think "Love Yourself," you're like, oh, this is good. Like everyone should just love who they are. Well, that's
nope.
The vibe of the song, the way the sound and texture of it, to me, that's like the vibe of it, but that's not what the song's about when you listen to the lyrics.
No, like he probably didn't want to say love yourself, but he couldn't make it on the radio.
Well, if you think you're so cool, why don't you just go love yourself now? That's really what the song is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Bieber. Another group that I love, and they're headlining the Blues Festival is the Tedeschi Trucks Band. And if you like blues, they are absolutely phenomenal. Derek Trucks, slide guitar. He's one of the most prolific players that's around today. and his wife Susan Tedeschi, great blues singer, and so I can't wait to see them again. So they're, as a band, they're probably my favorite band right now, Tedeschi Trucks Band. Yeah.
Good
They're
answer.
awesome.
Tamara also wants to know, what's your favorite country or southern food?
I mean, anything fried. Although I will say, collard greens were not something that I liked growing up, and then when I was in the South, I ate them a lot more, and I love collard greens now. I feel like it's one of those foods that's an acquired taste, and if you're gonna get collard greens, you can do it here in Portland, and it will be amazing. Go to Podna's in Northeast Portland on Killingsworth. Podna's, I mean, their barbecue is amazing, but their collard greens are done well, done the right way.
My stomach is legitimately growling right now. I
so-
don't know if you can hear it through the microphone. Hopefully not. Steele Clark wants to know, what are some of your aspirations for your career at KGW or beyond?
Oh wow, that's a great question.
5-year plan. No, just kidding.
I mean, I love what I'm doing right now. I hope to just keep growing it, and I love the music, and now I'm merging the two of those and getting into these music segments, and we're getting to the point now where we're really building the relationships with people at these venues in Portland, and they like what we're doing, and we're kind of getting into the local groups. So I really want to keep building the mic check segment. And that's not just something that Mackenzie's does. That's something that you will be a part of too. And so anytime we covered the Macklemore show, that was awesome, and so Cassidy was all about that.
Lots of fur coats.
Yeah, so let's just keep growing the music segment and seeing where that goes. And so that's like those are my priorities right now.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We've had live music in the studio a couple times, and people love that.
They do, yeah. The challenge there is just technically,
audio.
how do we, the Square studio space, if you've never seen it, you can walk by the Square and you can look inside and see that it's not that big. It's very small. So it's not really feasible to get an entire band in there as much as I'd want to do it. So if the times we've had, it's been like very limited, like acoustic, or we'll just let you sing a little bit or play. We had Curtis Salgado, the blues artist, up here, so we used the main studio up here, and he played a little harmonica, and that was great.
That was awesome.
Yeah, so we're gonna try to do that more if we can.
Well, and we're disappointed you didn't bring your guitar on the podcast today.
True, I should.
You can make us a jingle. No, I'm just kidding.
We should do that. This podcast needs a jingle.
Yeah.
At least I have one, so.
Paul Thomas wants to know your favorite place to get away.
Favorite place to get away? In Portland or outside of Portland? I don't know.
I think either could be.
Either. Well, if I'm getting away outside of Portland, I'm definitely heading towards the coast. No doubt. I'm heading towards the coast, and I'm going to go somewhere that I haven't been yet. I like getting into the main towns, but you can go like 10, 15 minutes outside of some of these, the busier spots and find some, really secluded places that you can just kind of hang out. So the coast, if I'm going outside of Portland. If I'm staying in Portland, I like to walk around a lot. It's amazing. We drive everywhere, and when you just take an hour, 2 hours, and just go to a neighborhood or even around your house and just walk around, you're amazed at how many things you miss just going about your daily life.
Well, even you were just mentioning that coffee place down the street. I've never heard of that. I've never seen it in my life.
And
Sounds great.
One of our directors showed me that. But I mean, even I live in Northeast Portland, around Alberta, and just walking around that area, just some of the cool homes you see. I mean, to me that's like getting away, because I'm like, wait, I'm only 3 blocks from my house, and I didn't even know that this cool, stretch of houses existed, or even walking down Alberta. If you're driving, I guarantee you did not notice how many murals or street art there is until you walk around, and it's incredible. I was outside an Iraqi food restaurant in Alberta. This guy was painting the mural, and it was just one of the coolest things I've ever seen. So that's my little getaway, I guess, in the city, is just walk around and kind of just take everything in that's around it. And get out. I mean, the best part about Portland is that it's neighborhood vibe everywhere you go, and each area and street has its own character, and so you kind of just can go and walk around and explore it.
True.
Yeah.
It's a good answer.
And I find a lot of segments when I'm out there. A lot of these places will have, little posters in the windows, or if I ever see something, I always ask about it. I mean, that's I guess why we're in this business. We always ask questions if we're curious. So, yeah, I kind of find stuff for the show in the process there too.
Yeah, that is true. You see like flyers for an event coming up. Like, oh, let me write that
or
down.
Or even just take a picture of it.
Yeah. Final question from the Twitter sphere.
Okay.
Very important, hard-hitting question. Scotty wants to know if I can be the new host of Live at 7.
So as as the producer, I make every single decision that happens on the show. Every single one.
So I'm just not cutting it.
Cassie does a great job anchoring the show. Every time you anchor, we get great feedback from people.
Oh,
so
yay. Just don't tell me about all the bad feedback.
Of course not. No, I don't have a say in who the anchor of the show is. That's out of my pay grade. I need to go up a few for that.
Chris Willis, I'm not coming for you.
Yeah.
If he's listening to this
Although
podcast.
that would be fun. We've talked about this of having you and Chris switch for a day, for a night, and having Chris be out there doing a PDX tonight and have you anchor. And I think we can make that happen.
Yeah, that would be fun.
We'll do that.
Okay, and the final portion of the podcast are 3 would you rather questions that I have come up with. Oh, first, side note, it's an informational question for the would you rather ones. Favorite sports teams or like sports players of yours?
Sports teams, basketball. I'm a Knicks fan, so as you can expect, I've adopted the Blazers pretty well. I'm definitely still a Knicks fan. I haven't dumped them, but they're awful. I'm a Yankee baseball fan. For football, I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, and I always get asked about that. I fit in perfectly in Portland now. There's so many Packer backers out here.
Really?
But yeah, there's a lot of Packer bars. Yeah, people ask me why a Packer fan when I was in New Jersey. Well, football fans, Vince Lombardi, the Super Bowl trophy. Lombardi.
Heard of his last name?
When my dad was younger, he sent him a letter, and sure enough, he got a handwritten letter and a ski cap back from Vince Lombardi. So he didn't want to be a Jets fan like his dad, and my grandfather, so he just became a Packer fan, and they were bad for a long time, and pretty much in my lifetime, we've been very, very good. So yeah, Knicks, Yankees, Packers. What sport am I missing here? Oh, I like the Rangers in hockey, although it's not a big hockey fan population out here. But anyway, so those are my teams, and University of South Carolina, Gamecocks football and baseball.
Of course.
Yeah,
that does not sound like a very intimidating mascot.
Right, the Gamecocks.
Okay, would you rather 5 minutes before your show is supposed to start, have the whole rundown disappear, everything gone, or 5 minutes before the show, Willis is very sick or something happens, you have to anchor the whole show?
I would definitely rather step in and anchor, and we actually almost had this happen. So this will be a funny story for people. I get a call from Willis, literally 5 minutes before the show, and he walks now. He does not drive. He was driving trying to find a spot at the square, and he gave me a frantic phone call like he was not going to make it in there for the start of the show. There's no one else down there to anchor to step in and do this, and he thought he was literally going to have to just get out of his car by the square and just toss his keys to somebody and be like, go park this for me. Somehow he literally came in like 2 minutes before the show started.
Oh, plenty of time.
So it almost happened. I would much rather hop in and anchor. And you'd be surprised on that note, sometimes the live shots are not ready until like right before we take them. There was a time where Tim Gordon was filling in for Cassidy, and we were at the Portland Night Market.
Oh yeah.
Which is like a pop-up market. We just covered it again. They do them like 3 or 4 times a year in the industrial inner east side. And Tim Gordon got the address is Alder, but it's southeast Alder, so he assumed it was downtown. And anyway, he got stuck behind some train or something, and he literally ran in there. The photographer was already there, so that was good. But he ran in there a minute before the live shot, and he just ran and he kept running because I've never seen anyone interview like 6 people and get into like 6 different little booths
and eat multiple things.
Including multiple oysters, in 3 minutes. That was incredible. So yeah, a lot of times you don't notice that at home, and that's the goal. But yeah.
Unless they show up with like sweat dripping down their face. What, Tim? Where have you gone? You're inside an air-conditioned building. You've been running a little bit.
Sweat started thinking about it.
I think you're the first non-on-air person. Well, only non-on-air people have I asked would you rathers that end in having to anchor a newscast. No one else, I don't think, has said that they would actually go on camera. Everyone else is like, yep, I would deal with anything. I'd deal with the website crashing or the newscast going away. I would not anchor, so that's good.
Yeah, I would step in and anchor.
Well,
the entire
might
show
have to happen.
is. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what would happen.
Again, we're knocking on wood. This is good. We're recording on a day we don't have a show, so we can't really like mess anything up. Would you rather be able to have an in-studio interview, and you would be down there, we're assuming like you get to meet them and talk to them beforehand or something, or maybe you have to anchor the show this day. In-studio interview with John Mayer or Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packers quarterback. These are the two options we're considering for tomorrow. Just no, I wish.
Right.
Aaron Rodgers, his brother, is on The Bachelorette right now, by the way.
And, from what I hear, he's a front runner on the show.
Yeah.
So.
Good-looking guy. Side note, just wanted to give you some time to think about it.
Who also played football.
Yep.
Back in Vanderbilt. Anyway, definitely Mayer. I would definitely rather interview John Mayer.
Oh.
No doubts. Yeah,
well, sorry, Aaron Rodgers, you've been cut out of tomorrow night's show.
Yeah.
What if this is the way you found out? We booked them both for tomorrow to decide live on air who to cut out.
Right.
Final one. Would you rather have to produce a 24-hour newscast by yourself or be stuck in the control room for 24 hours by yourself? No food. I don't think there's a restroom in the control room. Both great options.
I'd rather be stuck in the control room. I can definitely get in a very like Zen meditative state and just like pretend I'm somewhere else. So yeah, I think I would rather do that because I don't even know what a 24-hour newscast like what that would do to me. I don't know. That's a lot. So I would rather be locked in that room for a long time.
Maybe we should do this. We could do a Facebook live stream. Producer Mike Wadsworth locked in the control room for 24 hours, like on a Saturday. So there's not as many newscasts. So you have some friends in there a couple times.
Yeah.
But it's like escape room, real life. Wow, we've come up with so many great ideas on this podcast.
That's frightening.
That is the final great note to end on. Do you have any last words before we either end this podcast and lock you in a room, or we'll see what happens?
Never know what you're gonna do next.
There's no show tonight. We could lock you in a room for 24 hours. No one would know.
Last words? No, we just thank all of you for watching. We're very accessible, so you can send us stuff on Twitter or on Facebook, and we'll respond. And yeah, so Cass and I work together almost every single day. We probably work most closely together or I probably work with you more than anyone else. Is that
probably
fair to say?
Yeah.
So yeah, we're always collaborating on the segments and all that. So.
And what's the email again?
pdxtonight@kgw.com.
Perfect.
Even if you just want to say like that.
Yeah, just say hello. Hopefully nice things.
Yeah.
Or send an email if you want us to lock Mike in the control room. This has taken such a turn. So we will leave it with that. You can always find another episode every Friday of the Station Break podcast. The video goes to kgw.com and to KGW's YouTube channel. The audio goes to SoundCloud and iTunes. You can always leave us a comment. Give us a wonderful thumbs up, 5-star rating for Mike's wonderful stories and for putting up with me 5 days out of the week. Sometimes I might send emails on the weekends too, so that's even more. Thank you so much for watching or listening, and we will see you next week. Thank you. Bye. Thank you, Mike. He's silent. He's scared now.